What's up, YouTube? HPJ here, and I'm coming at you guys with my Sky Striker deck profile, IRL. So, I promised that I wasn't going to really focus on this deck unless I obtained all of the cards. And, lo and behold, everyone is here. And I'm really, really excited about this because, one, this is an all-female cast. Two, the leading monster is amazing in her effects. And three, this is still one of the highest tiered decks right now, still in the format. And there's a lot of variations of this deck. So, I just want to say, before I go into it, everyone has their own variation of Sky Striker. Just how you build up upon it, it's just how you build up upon it. And luckily enough, we stash side decks. So, it's not a problem. Pretty much other than that, I mean, this is just really just something that I'm really excited to show you guys, and I can't wait any longer. So, without further ado, let's do the Sky Striker Ace deck profile. So, I'm going to start off with the monsters. I'm running 3 copies of Sky Striker Ace Ray. This is one of the big leading monsters in the deck itself. I'm running 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Springs, and following her, I'm running 3 copies of Effect Failure. So, that is it for all of the monsters. Yes, that's literally the monster lineup. Now let's go on to the spell lineup. And I have to actually break this down into 2 parts because the first part of spells is all Sky Striker spells. The rest of them are all normal spells. Like you just generically fit into the deck. I'm running 3 copies of Sky Striker Ace Mobilize Engage, Sky Striker Mech Mobilize Engage, Sky Striker Widow Anchor. And in all of the 2 Sky Striker spells, I'm running 2 copies of Afterburner, 2 copies of Jamming Wave, 2 copies of Hercules Base, 2 copies of Area Zero, 2 copies of Shark Cannon, 2 copies of Eagle Booster, and 1 copy each of Hornet Drone and Multi-Roll. So that is it for the Sky Striker spells. Yeah, that was a lot of spells. Then we're going to move on to the regular spell cards I'm running in addition to the deck. I'm running 3 copies of Foolish Burial of Goods. Following that, I am running 1 copy of not Foolish Burial. Metal Foes Fusion. Then I'm running 1 Upstart Goblin, 1 Terraforming, 1 Foolish Burial, and 1 Reinforcement of the Army. So that is it for all of the spell cards that I'm running in this deck. Then we move on to the trap cards. Yes, there are trap cards, and I'm only running 3 of one particular card, and that is Infinity Impermeance. So that is it for the show. Sorry, I'm a little under the weather. I'm still trying to deal with a cold. Next up is the extra deck. So the extra deck will consist of 3 copies of Sky Striker Ace Shizuku, 1 copy of Sky Striker Ace Kagari, 2 copies of Sky Striker Ace Hayate, and 1 copy of Sky Striker Ace Kina. So that is it for the Sky Striker extra deck monsters. Then I'm running 1 Nightmare Cerberus, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Barrel Sword Dragon, 1 Barrel Low Dragon, 1 Evil Sworn Exciton Knight, 1 Dagastel Emerald, and 1 Gagaga Cowboy. So that's pretty much it for the extra deck in terms of all of its monsters, all of its support. This is a very, very flexible deck. And the reason why I say it's flexible is considerably because of how the deck itself is played. The way Sky Strikers are played for the most part is you rely on this lovely lady or this quick play spell to produce you a monster that will be able to just single-handedly go into a ton of broken extra deck monsters. Sky Striker Ace Ray is a level 4 Dark Warrior type monster, 1500 attack and defense. And her effects read, when this card, you contribute this card to summon a Sky Striker Ace monster from your extra deck to your extra monster zone. While this card is in your graveyard, while face up, Sky Striker link monster you control is destroyed in battle or leaves the field because of your opponent's card effect. You can special summon this card from your field. You only use from your graveyard to the field. You can only use each effect of Ray once per turn. Then you have Hornet Drones, which is a click play spell. You control no monsters in your main monster zone. Keyword here: control no monsters in your main monster zone, because that's going to be on all of the Skytracker spells. You can special summon one Skytracker Ace token, 0 attack and defense from to the field. Level 1 Warrior Dark Monster. Yep, level 1 Dark warrior monster. And if you control 3 or more cards in the graveyard, this is another effect I'll have. They'll have additional effects if um, if there's 3 or more spells in the graveyard. It will gain 1,500 attack and defense. So, with these 2 cards, you can pretty much go into a ton of your extra deck Sky Striker Ace monsters. The gimmick behind the Sky Strikers is that once you go into your extra deck, you want to just stay in the extra monster zone as much as possible. If you were to ever leave the extra monster zone, be worried, because your Sky Striker spells will not work. You have to have no monsters in your extra monster zone. Luckily enough, that leaves way for a lot of the other monsters. Sadly enough, I don't own one of the bigger setups for this deck, and that is Tapologic Bomber Dragon. And because of how this deck had got hit so many times, there's only one Hornet Drone, there's only one multi-roll, and a lot of the supporting casts did get hit too, I believe. I can't remember exactly which ones they were. But this deck can just easily flood in a lot of hand traps. Your variation depends on what you want to run. And then, other than that, I mean, it's just floating on with its own spells and traps. I don't want to go through the extra deck monsters, because these 4 ladies are a part of this, just like these. Like I said, Ray and Hornet Drone can help you get into these 4 monsters. Right now, at the time of this recording, there are only 4. If there were more coming, they will come soon. But at the time, these are pretty much the 4 monsters that link monsters that Ray can help you get into. Kagari, Shizuku, Kina, and Hayate. So we're going to start off actually with Suzuku. Suzuku is the water extra deck Sky Striker Ace monster. She points top right. I believe all of them are machine. Yes, they're all machine, but Ray is warrior. I don't know how that works. But when she's during the end phase of the this card was special summon, you can add 1 Sky Striker Ace spell card from your deck that you did not play this turn. So it helps you Rhoda for a lot of those Sky Striker spells. Actually, I think it's any Sky Striker card. Yeah. But spell from your hand with a different name than the ones in the graveyard. So yeah, it is your Rhoda through the effects of a monster. The other effect she has is her continuous effect. 100 attack and defense is decreased from all your opponent's monsters that are on the field. This is actually a great way for the strategists to get over a lot of things and have a lot of control, because most monsters you can easily deal with less attack. The more spells you have in your graveyard, the more you can accumulate the deck of having to not have to deal with so much. I love how easy this is just to help out, and with a lot of the corresponding spells, you can easily take some things down. Now, let's talk about her next monster, which is the opposite of her. This is Sky Striker Ace Kagari. Kagari gains 100 attack and defense. 100 attack for each spell in the graveyard. When she special summoned, you can select one Sky Striker spell card in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So the biggest one that you'll grab out of this, for the most part, is Mobilize Engage, or you can grab Widow, and you can grab any one of them, but most people, of course, will want to go for Draw Power or Control, and that's through Widow Anchor and Mobilize Engage. The thing about her is that she is the other fire. She's the fire attribute. She points top right, and she's complete opposite of Suzuku. Because of her recovery effect, because of her attack, I don't mean mainly because of her recovery effect. That is why she's at 1, because of all the things she has access to. She can only be special summoned once a turn. That's also a thing about the other Sky Striker extra deck monsters, is they can only be special summoned once a turn. So you can't go into multiples of them, and you can't get each other, because she also restricts you. You can only special summon her with a non-fire Sky Striker monster, Suzuku says you can only summon her with a non-water Sky Striker monster. It having to be two of the bigger hitters. We move on to Sky Striker Ace Hayate, which she can attack your opponent directly when a Sky Striker card inflicts damage to your opponent. When a Sky Striker monster inflicts damage to your opponent, or oh no, okay, I read that wrong. When this card attacks, this card can attack directly. When this card inflicts damage to your opponent, you can send one Striker spell from your deck to your graveyard. I think this is also another card that combines well with Kagari because Hayate will attack directly. Kagari will get it from the graveyard by just swapping herself out. There is no decrease or increase in attack or defense. So that's her. And then we have Kina. So Kina is the odd man out. Kina, unlike Hayate pointed bottom left. Kagari points bottom right. Non-earth monster for her summon. And you can... Each time a spell card is activated, immediately after it resolves, gain 100 life points. This is pretty much a life point gainer to help you in case you run into nasty decks like Burn. And it's a great, it just really synergizes with that whole anti-burn setup. Or if you start screwing off your life points, if you want to decide to play cards like Solemn Judgment, Solemn Strike, and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the four lovely ladies of Sky Striker Aces. Like I said, these monsters are all have the ability to be summoned by a monster of the same, a Sky Striker Ace monster of the same attribute. And then they can only be summoned once a turn. And these are pretty much your big hits into your extra deck. I mean, you don't have to run Wind or Earth, but definitely running Fire and Water. Moving on to the rest of the cards, of course. My hand chose a choice because I took like so much time talking about the extra deck monsters. Your hand traps can be anything. I just chose Effect Veiler and Ash Blossom because these are two of the big hits. Ash Blossom can hit stuff that's going to send stuff to the graveyard, such as summon stuff from the deck, or search the deck for cards. While Effect Veiler just says nope to any monster effect that's on the field. So that is the two of them. Now we're going to move on to all the spells that the Sky Striker have. With the exception of Hornet Drone, because I've already talked about that. The main gimmick of all the Sky Striker spells, they have, well, for the most part, exception of the field spell, if you control 3 or more cards in your graveyard, you get an additional effect. Otherwise, you have to control no monsters in order to activate them. Triple Sky Striker Mobilize Engage. This is your draw power and your search power all in one card. Search your deck for a Sky Striker card. If you have 3 or more in the grave, you draw 1. Then we have 3 copies of Widow Anchor, Effect Veiler, press Brain Control. The Brain Control effect is only when you have 3 or more spells in the grave. Otherwise, it's negating your opponent's effects till the end of a monster's effect until the end of the turn. I was going to say opponent. No, it's any monster effect to the end of the turn. Then, 2 copies of Afterburner and Jamming Wave. So the two things about these cards is that they're complete polar opposites to themselves. Ironically enough, Afterburner features Kagari, while Jamming Wave has Shizuku. Jamming Wave, select a set card on the field, destroy it. If you have 3 or more souls in the grave, destroy one of your opponent's monsters. Afterburner, destroy one opponent's face-up monster on the field. 3 or more spells in the grave, select one spell or trap on the field and destroy it. So that is Afterburner and Jamming Wave. Great cards to deal with back row and front row. They don't multi-target, which could be useful in its own case, but unfortunately it's not. Zero area in Hercules Base. Hercules Base is a pot of avarice. If it's destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, add up to 3 Sky Striker Ace cards and except for a copy of itself and send to the to the back of the deck and shuffle. Area 0. So select one card you control. Excavate the top 3 cards of your deck, and then if any of them are Sky Striker cards, you can add one of them to your hand and then destroy the selected card. If this card is destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard. No, this card is destroyed by a card effect, right? It's sent to the graveyard. You can special summon one Striker Ace Ray from your deck to the field. So it's a great way to get to Ray. You have a ton of targets you can easily pop with Area Zero. One of the good combinations is that you can pop off Ray to get a monster from the extra deck, and then because you already selected the card, you don't know if the card's going to be destroyed or not. You still excavate to add the Striker card and add it to your hand. If you do get one out of the three cards you excavate, it's a great way to get out of things. Or you can pop cards like Hercules Bates and get its effects triggering. So that is the two of them. We're gonna move on to the next two cards. That is Eagle Booster and Shark Cannon. I said Shock Cannon. No, Shark Cannon. So Eagle Boost protects a monster from being destroyed by being unaffected by card effect. Then if you have three or more cards, it cannot be destroyed by battle, which is great because it gives you both defenses against battle and immunity to card effects other than its own. And then you have Shot Cannon. Pretty much banishes a card in your opponent's graveyard, and if you have three or more cards, you can Monster Reborn that card to your side of the field, but it can't attack. You're probably going to use this for cards that have high links, and then you can link it to your other higher cards if you want to. It's a great way to be a DD Crow as well, because it is a quick play spell, just as much as Ego Booster is. The only other spell card, of course, to talk about is Multi-Roll. This is another card that got hit due to the ban list, because this card is such it's similar in a way to the field spell of it being able to select a card and then giving certain abilities. This gives immunity. If this card is on the field still, what it'll do during the end phase is it'll add cards back from your graveyard to the field up to the number of cards you played this turn, and then allow you to play those cards, but they're banished during the end phase, which can hurt for Kagari and Shizuku, but it gives you a lot of free passes to a lot of your other supporting spells and spell cards, so I'm going to take advantage of that. The rest of the spell cards in the deck are pretty much just floats. They're here to either assist in thinning out the deck or to just be another spell card in the graveyard. Speaking of which, Foolish Burial's goods only really helps to send a lot of spells to the graveyard. One of the big ones that I like to combine it with, of course, is Metal Foes Fusion. Metal Foes Fusion will still count as a spell in the graveyard, but you can send it back to your deck to shuffle and draw a card. You can hit this card with Multi-Roll. You can hit this card with Area Zero and trigger all their effects. So it's a good floating spell. That's also another thing that you rarely hear. A good floating spell. Because you can use Metal Foes Fusion in a lot of ways without having to use the fusion effect. Next up is the Upstart Goblin for the additional draw power. Terraforming, the search for the field spell. Foolish Burial, to send Ray to the graveyard just as an additional setup. And then Reinforcement Army to search for Skyshaker, Ace, or Ray. The only other card to talk about in the main deck, of course, is the Infinity Imperviences. And this is just another card to help in combination with Effect Veiler. Because you can drop this card if you control no cards. Whatever cards are in the same column as this cannot activate their effects. So yeah, great ways to deal with stuff there. We've already talked about the Skyshaker Ace extra deck monsters, but just talk about the rest of the extra deck monsters. Nightmare Cerberus to deal with monsters, Nightmare Phoenix to deal with spells, and if they're co-linked to stuff, you get to draw a card off of them. Barrel Sword and Barrel Load, two heavy hitters from this art in general for Link Force. There's also Trisbania, there's Topologic Bomber, but I don't have those unfortunately, but they would be great additions if you want to drop the extra deck Exceed monsters, because you can mix and match that around. If you have seen some of my earlier Sky Striker videos. Sadly enough, we don't have Crystal Needle Fiber, but I would love to have used Jet Synchrons and stuff like that. Next up, of course, we do and can talk about the extra deck Exceed monsters. These only here for those last-ditch efforts, but I do side in Ghost Ogre and Winter Cherries, so you can mix and match your extra deck and then take out a lot of things in the format. But Excise Knight to clear the field, Emerald for a pot of Avarice, and then Galboy for the 800 points of damage. So, that is pretty much it for the deck profile of the Sky Striker Aces. I Hope you guys enjoy my deck profile and more content. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell so you guys can be informed of when I upload and more. Thanks everybody for watching. HPJ signing out.